Jana Ballabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Statarasata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Lay Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavananda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Saga Host Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kani Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Shri Mayapur Dhama Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jainatai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Idam hi Vishvam Bhagavan Ivetaro Yato Jagat Sthana Nirodha Sambhava Tad Dhi Swayam Veda Bhavams Tatapi Te Pradesha Matram Bhavata Pradarshitam Idam hi Vishvam Bhagavan Ivetaro Yato Jagat Sthana Nirodha Sambhava Tadhi Swayam Veda Bhavams Tatapi Te Pradesha Matram Bhavatah Pradarshitam Idam hi Vishvam Bhagavan Ivetaro Yato Jagat Sthana Nirodha Sambhava Tadhi Swayam Veda Bhavams Tatapi Te Pradesha Matram Bhavatah Pradarshitam Idam, this, he, all, Vishvam, cosmos, Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, Eva, almost the same, Itara, different from, Yata, from whom, Jagat, the worlds, Sthana, exist, Nirodha, annihilation, Sambhava, creation, Tat, okay, he, all about you, all about, Swayam, personality, Veda, no, Bhavan, your good self, Tata api, still, te, unto you, Pradesha matram, a synopsis only, Bhavataha, unto you, Pradarshitam, explained. Translation. The Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and under him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis. Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the supersoul, personality of Godhead, because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared in this earth for the well-being of all people. Please, therefore, describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly. Purport. Srila Vyasadeva is the empowered plenary portion incarnation of the Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He descended by his causeless mercy to deliver the fallen souls in the material world. The fallen and forgotten souls are detached from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and they are eternally servitors of the Lord. All the Vedic literatures, therefore, are put into systematic order for the benefit of the fallen souls. And it is the duty of the fallen souls to take advantage of such literatures and be freed from the bondage of material existence. Although formally Sri Narada Rishi is his spiritual master, Srila Vyasadeva is not at all dependent on a spiritual master, because in essence he is the spiritual master of everyone else. But because he is doing the work of an acharya, he has taught us by his own conduct that one must have a spiritual master, even though he be God himself. Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Rama, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all incarnations of Godhead, accepted formal spiritual masters, although by their transcendental nature they were cognizant of all knowledge. In order to direct people in general to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, he himself, in the incarnation of Vyasadeva, is delineating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. So Krishna is to benefit the living entities. Living entities have strayed from Krishna. So to benefit them, then the Lord has created this material world, given the Shastra, and then he comes himself as Vyasadeva to compile it in such a way to make it more clear to the living entities. And so, seeing that that's the purpose of the material world, that's the purpose of what he's doing here, Prabhupada's pointing out, is that the living entities should take advantage of that. It's actually their duty, right? That's the main duty. You fit in all the other duties around that. Right? So it's just like your duty is to be Krishna conscious, right? Study the scriptures, be Krishna conscious. So that being the primary actual purpose of human life, then that means all other duties, like the family, one's occupation, whatever else one's doing in the community or everything else, that is all in support of you being Krishna conscious. That's how it has to be seen. There's always a hierarchy. And so that aspect of being Krishna conscious, that's the main. So Krishna being the cosmos, it's about how to see Krishna in everything that you're doing, wherever you're situated in the cosmos. So, yeah, so that's the important element. And we see here is then how do we understand the Shastra? We understand it from the spiritual master. So, here, even though Vyasadeva is the incarnation of the Lord, still, as the Acharya, he follows the same principle. He comes, he has a spiritual master, he follows the instructions and all that. So that's and by that, then we can understand this is important. Because we see here Vyasadeva is doing that, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Ramachandra, Sri Krishna is doing, they're all formally taking a spiritual master. They're not just saying, well, actually, I'm God and you're, our servant, but, you're my spiritual master, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, kind of like that. No, they actually play their role. They take that. Because Vyasadeva, he has an understanding. He's compiled all the Vedic literatures, but not being satisfied. He analyzes it. From analyzing it, he can understand that he feels he didn't describe the pastimes of the Lord to a completeness and a fullness and a prominence that was necessary. So then his spiritual master comes, and then he asks him, and then he confirms it, and then gives finer detail of that. Yes?
This point on Krishna becoming a disciple, is it Krishna doing it for pleasure as well?
Yes. Yeah, it's just another aspect, because what is the Because we complain about why does he need a spiritual master? Why does he need parents? Right? Because he's the origin of everything. So from him expand his energies. From his energies then expand his parents. And now he's the... So it's all about that relationship and rasa and all that. That's the bottom line, is that. Parental, yes. Parental. But at the same time as when one comes to the transcendental position, in the spiritual world, it's friendship. Because all living entities in the spiritual world, you have a relationship of friendship. There may be senior friendship, equal, junior, and confidential. But friendship is the natural relationship between all living entities in the spiritual world. So it'll have that. But here it'll have that element of the parental. So it's just another aspect of rasa. So for him it's... Because in Mano, then it mentions that for the individual, then father, mother, and the teacher, or the guru, these three you have a relationship with for life, right? Because they're all gurus. They're all taking care. These are the three aspects of the representation of the parental rasa. So when that's appreciated, then it works. So in the Vedic culture, that's very important because the parents, they give birth to the child, they'll nourish the child, they'll teach them the basics, according to their understanding. They'll practice themselves, engage the children, give good example. But at the same time, as because of that familiarity, then one may not be as, strong or strict as one should be in certain situations. Therefore, that's the importance that then you have parental ras that doesn't have that bodily attachment, and then can guide you in those details that the parents have given the fundaments, but may not be pointing out the exact application in all situations due to just the relationship. So that's what makes human life perfect. For the animals, they don't need the spiritual. The parents do that, the mother will teach them how to hunt and like that. So they'll learn everything there. So for eating, sleeping, mating, defending, basically you can get everything from the parents. And when you're dealing with devotees, then they'll give you the foundation of Krishna consciousness. But to become conscious of it and aware and actually how to apply it, that will come from the spiritual master. As we see I think it's in the, what do you call it? I don't know, it's the name of it, where in the beginning of the book they give, it's not a dedication, I guess it would be like a dedication. Where Prabhupada's, in the Bhagavad Gita, then he's talking about his father, how he gave him the foundation of Krishna consciousness, which then later his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur then established. Oh, prologue, okay. Yeah, they have all these fancy something for it. But the principle is there, is that he's acknowledged that he's the basis he's learned from the parents, but then the spiritual master is taking it further. Just like, let's say, from your parents you learn to read and write, but then the teacher's teaching you how the literature works, how to actually express it. Does that make sense? So that's then in the Vedic system that's considered complete, since human life is meant for elevation. Then mother and father is not enough. You have to have teacher also. So that relationship, that makes human. Right? So that's how you can tell. What's one of the symptoms of someone who's a more elevated personality is that they'll respect the parents first, and they'll also respect their teachers. Because you'll have those who don't respect anybody. Of course, that's very common. Then those who will respect the parents, but not the teacher. Those who respect the teacher, not the parents. But you're supposed to respect both. Yes?
Well, traditionally, the Guru has his own children and has a gurukul. But traditionally, those children study under him, or
they would, in preliminaries they would do there because they're living there. But when they're of the age and qualified to study, they'll go study with someone else. Like Bharadwaj and Raibhya Muni, they had ashrams next to each other. And their children went to the other for training. It's the same thing, because you'll be a little bit more lax, and you'll give it a little more time. So yeah, they'll learn it, but I won't press right now. We'll do it a little later, and like that. Well, the teacher knows when the time is, and will do it right at that time.
So not as much knowledge to educate your own children.
Yes, it is. It is. That's why the system is there. But as far as eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, that the parents are fully qualified for that. So that's not why you need the teacher. And so the parents will give that aspect, how you live your lifestyle, and they'll give you the Krishna conscious basis that they're following. But at the same time, the spiritual master will show how to follow that properly and how that lifestyle given by the parents, you connect it to Krishna. Right? So that foundation is there. So if the parents, the better the foundation, the farther the teacher can take the student. Right? So it's not that the parents then have no obligation. No, they already have to be. They have to be trying to do that, teach, and then the teacher can take more. Does that make sense?
But I think for young person, it's a good thing. They have to be sort of separated at some point.
Yeah, they need to be at some point. See, the girls not as much, because girls are always conscious. That's it. And so the main point for boys, you have to separate them, is they tend to not be conscious unless they're separated from the household environment. Because for the girls, that's their natural situation. So they're aware of everything. And so then whatever everybody does, how it does, they pick up everything. So basically you could say, in one sense, by the time they're 12, they actually understand how the whole grihastha scene works, because they're so aware. But for the boys, then the attention they get, and it goes nicely, and they just get into the little mechanics of things that are there, playing with the toys and other things. They tend to not notice how the family scene works. They have no idea. It's like this. Someone sent me this kind of a parody, a clip. I'm not sure if it wasn't you, but somebody sent me that about a young couple, and the wife comes home after work and she's distressed. It was a bad day, and then she had mentioned something like that. I thought I had mentioned to the husband about you'll have to make dinner because there's something going crazy, so she won't be home on time. And I guess he didn't get it or didn't notice, or he wasn't too bothered. And so she's freaking out, and he says, no, don't worry, it'll all work out, it'll be fine. And then she says, how will it be fine? He says, I'll give you an example. And then he takes her into the next room, into the laundry room. And he points to this empty, that empty plastic basket with all the holes in, that you throw dirty clothes in. And he points to that. See this basket? It's a magic basket. Whatever you put in there, no matter what shape it's in, dirty, magically, the next day, it's washed, folded, ironed, and inside your drawer. Like that. She's like looking at him like, is this for real? And then he says, I'll show you another one. Then he goes out, and they go into the living room. In front of the sofa, there's the coffee table. And he says, here's another one. This table, it's magic also. He says, it doesn't matter what you put on here, what you leave here. The next day it's gone. He says, I've even tested it. I've really made a mess and really made an effort to really, just make it, and it's gone. And the lady just walks off, right? And so then, the next scene is that he's there with the police. And he says, yeah, I don't know what happened. It was like in the middle of the night, she said something about I had to go to the bathroom, and she disappeared. I don't know what happened to her. Like that. And then, the conversation comes up, and that, why there was something. I don't know. The last conversation, we were talking about this magic table and all that. And it's a man policeman and a woman policeman. And the woman policeman goes, are you for real? And the man policeman goes, no, he's real. I have the same thing at my house. So that's the thing. When the boys aren't separated from the house, they never become conscious of how it works. They take it for granted because, especially because the mother will always take care, especially the son, very nicely and all that kind of thing. And so they think that that's just how it's supposed to be and how it works. And so then when they get married, then their wife will take care of them just like their mother did. And, it's just every life goes on. So when you separate the boy from the family, then he becomes aware of what happens because he has to do it. He's in the ashram, it's clean because he cleans it, right? There's food because he cooks it. Or, in other traditions, they go out and beg. It's not that just the food happens. You go out and beg, then you bring that back. And then all the brahmacharis, that's put together, and then that's what's distributed. Things happen. The puja happens because you do it. Everything happens because you do it. Your clothes get washed because you do it. So then, in the beginning, they don't want to do it because, at home, everyone will do it. Why do I have to do it here? Because it's normal that I don't do this stuff, right? And at the school, this is not normal because they expect me to do this. But if they adjust to that, where they're okay with that and they're comfortable, in that kind of environment, then you see they progress very nicely, become responsible, their studies go up, their work ethic, their ability to work with others and all that, and that way then they grow into a man. So then when they graduate and go home, now they can actually, now they're on an equal footing, you can say, with a girl. Because the girl has already picked up everything. And he, by going to the Gurukul, now he's picked it up. Now they're on an equal platform. But if she stays at home, he stays at home, they're never on an equal platform. She's so much more developed. And that becomes the problem. So for many is that, is that we won't get into that. Does that make sense? So therefore, especially for boys, they go away for training. Not that girls aren't trained, but they can be trained in the house and function perfectly fine. So he sees that traditionally, much of the time, the teachers would all come to the home, like that. And they, the girls who study there, they'd have their place where they study, and they like that. The Brahma come to the house, teach them all there. And then other practical things, then the family's teaching, and other relatives are teaching, and all that. So it's always an educational process, like that. But it's just the girls can do all that in the home. The boys, they need to go out. Like if the girls go out a bit, it's some variety, but it's not necessary because you can also just go out anyway, go for a walk, go to a restaurant, like that. But for the boys, even if they're at home, even they go out, they don't change the mentality. So they have to be separated from the family. Then they become aware. That's why you see in the older, old world kind of customs. The boys, from like 10, 12, they would go out with the men to the fields, and farm and stuff like that. And
In all traditions, you have elements of the, even in Aboriginal tradition, they have that walkabout.
yes,
And then we go and spend a year by themselves.
yes. Yeah, well, they all, I've heard even the Eskimos, or what do you call it, Inuits, like that.
In Western Africa tribes, forests, the nomads, they live in a matriarchal society for thousands of years. Mothers, and when the young man goes of age, goes and lives with his grandmother to become a man.
Okay,
That's the role in that community for grandmothers to train them into a man.
okay. You have to say, in other words, you have to go somewhere else. Because, see, the point is the grandmother, even though she's a woman, it's not her child, so she's not attached. So she can say it as it is. If you think about it, the same subject matter, let's say it's something that's a problem. Like let's say, just the behavior or something like that, or, something, let's say, like smoking or like that. For the parent, especially the mother, it's a whole emotional thing. How can you do this and not this, and I'm feeling this, so disappointed. It gets all this whole thing is that you don't actually speak on the point. But the grandmother will just go, "You're smoking? That's stupid. Why are you doing that? It'll kill you." Okay. So what they'll do in 30 seconds, the mother can't do in, weeks or years because they just won't, with that detachment, just address it straight. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you're saying the grandmother, she can do that. She has no problem.
The interesting thing is that they produce very strong warriors.
Yeah. You have to be separated. So whatever it is in this, because if it's matriarch, you'll find it works. Because then the women are taking the responsibility, so then they'll make sure that they're doing. If it's a patriarchal, then the man is taking that role, so the women can be more, the emotional and all that. So, does that make sense? The point is that someone's got to do it. And if the men are doing it, then great. And if they're not doing it, then the women will do it. But it has to be someone who's not your mother, who can just deal straight. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, therefore, we see is that then Vyasadeva has taken a spiritual master. And by taking, then he sets the example in how things work. Like that. So it's just what should be done. And then also the women, they take a spiritual master. But the point, they don't have to leave and go to the ashram or like that. But they still the principle that they're taking up that spiritual endeavor and everything like that. So, yeah. Something else? Yes. Yeah. But why are you defining a pure devotee as someone who can't tell the difference between a man and woman? Why would you use that as a measurement? I mean, we have so many definitions of a pure devotee, and generally, not being able to tell the difference between a man and a woman, that's not one of them. Why use that as a measurement? It's confusing. Yeah, so, but you can't tell the difference between bodies? So the pure devotee is seeing everything as Krishna and seeing everyone as part and parcel of Krishna, but he can't tell the difference between anybody? He can't tell the difference between a donkey and a car and a bush and a kid and a basketball. To him, because it's all Krishna's energy, they're all exactly the same. So if you want to go down to the market, you hop on the basketball and just roll down, because here it's easy, because it's all downhill, and that little bit it raises, but if you get a good enough go, you can get that and just over the hump, then, just go through the tunnel, right? Isn't that how it works? And, you want to play some, you have a little fun, then you pick up the donkey and do a few hoops with the donkey, and means think about what you're saying. So you're taking this statement and applying it so generic, it doesn't work. Achintabheda Veda Tattva means that there's something is simultaneously one and different. Because if everything is one and there's no difference, then you only have one thing. But we see is that everything has its uniqueness. Right? There's a difference between the floor and the wall. Now the wall has marble on it. In fact, the same marble. You're sitting on the marble on the floor over there. There's the same marble on the wall. So is the floor and the wall the same? They have the same function. Right? And since we already put in a floor, why have the redundancy of the wall? So we could just, the floors of we sit on the floors, right? And so the walls then if you want to block something, okay, but as far as otherwise, then the openness is great. So we'll build a building that just has floors, no walls, right? Because they're the same thing. This is flat, that's flat. What is the 90-degree angle? What's the big deal? Do we see something here? You get the understanding? That how do you engage something in Krishna's service if you can't tell the difference between things? Right? If you can't tell the difference between a potato, and a kumquat, then how is it going to work out? Yeah, that's. Yeah. Yeah, yes, that's right. We understand? See, this idea of oneness, that there's no distinction, doesn't exist. That's a philosophy of the Mayavadis. It's not our philosophy, but it's extremely popular. But that doesn't make it correct. Prabhupada says a million fools can say a lie is true, but it doesn't make it any, it's fact. It doesn't make it any better. So in other words, we have to be able to give up this attachment to the impersonal concept that we may have been exposed to, for much of our life, and, in both the modern and in the traditional background.
Would you, if you flip it and say that actually Jiva Bodhi is actually much better at distinguishing because he sees how Krishna's energy functions in different ways and he responds to Krishna's energy only, so if there's a female energy, he respects it, he recognizes that as male energy and he responds accordingly to the perspective.
It's just a different application. It's not that Sukadev doesn't see that, but he's not distinguishing that there is, some particular function or something to be done. He has nothing to do with that aspect of the feminine energy. So it's not that he can't tell they're girls, but they're just girls. He's looking at everything as the principal creation. Because if he can't tell the difference, why is he can run down the road and not bump into trees or fall in the water? We don't hear he's stumbling along because everything's exactly the same, it's all one, and so there's no like that. But then why run? Because it's all one, so he doesn't need to, so he can just sit down and implode or something. Right? So we have to be very, very careful, because this Mayavad philosophies come from Buddhism. Buddhism is nothingness. There's no such thing. Right? So here, that you see everything as one means you see everything as Krishna, and then you see its engagement in Krishna's service. So Vyasadeva, because he's compiling the Vedic literature, so to show everyone how to distinguish and apply it in their life and to Krishna's service, and he's a grihasta, then for him the dealings with women and that is different than Sukadev. Sukadev's a Paramahamsa, so he doesn't have any interaction with them. There's nothing to gain in that way. He doesn't have to, there's no consideration of that there's some particular duties or benefit to gain. And girls know that kind of stuff, like that. Men may not catch it, but girls do. But Vyasadeva, because he's a grihasta, therefore then women are in a particular capacity, interaction, relationship, and all that. Therefore then it's respectful to dress. Right? In other words, if you come in the room and the women don't dress, and you're not a Paramahamsa, means they don't respect you. Right? The men are thinking, oh, cool, they're relaxed and all that. It means they don't respect you. Not that they're comfortable with you. Their comfort means they don't respect. Does that make sense? European culture is cool with it, but let's say at least in South America, the Hispanic culture or the Latino culture, they're not. So girls will never walk around not nicely dressed. Because that means they don't respect you. Because they don't care. Because who's this guy? What does it matter? The dog walks in the room. They don't change how they're dressing or sitting. So you walk in the room, they don't change the same. You understand? So because he's dealing in this way of social interaction, they respond. Well, he's dealing on that Paramahamsa platform of just seeing everything in its position of the primary creation. And he can distinguish its manifestation. Therefore, then he doesn't get, they're not, there's no disrespect on their part and no trying to take advantage on his. So they just respect him by folding their hands. But Vyasadeva, they respect him by putting on the clothes. Does this make any sense, or that was, okay. Yeah, traditionally, but here, no. But before we go into that, traditionally, do we wear a hoodie and some funky sweatpants in front of the Lord? So if you're not respecting the Lord, so why the hell do you expect the women to respect you? You know what I'm saying? If you're going to come across the water and come over here and then lose all your culture, why are you complaining about the women? What's your position? Who are you to say that? You don't have any right to say that. If you're sitting here in the dhoti, chador, wearing it properly, doing all the different things like that, then, and you deal with the ladies properly, according to the culture, then you could maybe bring it up. But in the position you're in right now, you have zero adhikar to make that point. It's not, but you're not in a position to make a general comment. You're not in a position. If that was your lifestyle, yes. Because why would you comment on others' lifestyle if you're not following your lifestyle? You're not doing your duty. Why are you commenting on their duty? You understand? You can make the point. It does say you can take good advice from even from a low-class man or a sinful man. You can take that, but you have to understand the position. He knows he's sinful, but he's practical. Like I learned, I was taught not to take up smoking by a chain smoker. That means that's what they do, 100 cigarettes a day. That's not a small amount. And then when I kind of came of age where you might start, as a kid, start dabbling in smoking, maybe like 10 or something, then he gave 1 point, and we never smoked. Because he knew it's bad. But you're thinking you're fine, and they're wrong. So it's not a matter of the dhoti, it's a matter of your mentality. So just because one's intelligent, one's observant, and one can play and speculate with the Shastra and the points, and one's comfortable with that, doesn't mean that it's actually a very big qualification. Qualification is taking it to the point of application and realization. But otherwise, playing with it, any person who's got a touch of culture and a touch of intelligence, that's what they do. They just play. Like in India, all the Hindus, they all just play with it. They don't do it, they just play with it. Right? You go to someplace like Sri Rangam, there they live it. Now the guy in Sri Rangam makes the comment, and then you can listen. But the other guys, the Bombay Wallas, and they're doing all their modern stuff and all that kind of stuff, then you know what I'm saying? That's what we're meaning. Why bring that up like that? So, covering the head is a North Indian tradition. South, they don't do it. Right? It's a different culture. Does that make sense? So in the South Indian culture, you don't see the women really cover their head. So that means in Gujarat on down, they don't. But from Rajasthan on up, then it's north, so then they cover their head. It's a different flavor. Yeah, I got something on my head, exactly. I don't see something on your head. Yeah? You know what I'm saying? So the point is you have the principle that the culture is there. And then if you follow the culture, then it works. So Prabhupada introduced, because our culture comes from that north and east, right? But of that specifically, we're following because it's Braj. So in north, only the girls who are married cover their head. In Braj, all girls cover their head. Right? But it's a matter of the element of shyness and this and that. But that means then they have to be taken care of to the point where they can afford to be shy. So if the men don't take care of the women, how can the women do their part? So when men just point out, why aren't the women doing this? They're doing what they're doing because the men aren't doing their part. He's sitting in the heart. If he was offended, why would he sit there? The point is this, what you're doing, it's all illusion anyway. It's just that we take it seriously. You know, like the children are playing, till the adults take it seriously. No. You know, but if the child becomes puffed up, you know, then he becomes smarty pants or, you know, something like that. Then he becomes, his false ego is there. You know, so that's the point, is that one has to see, that's the problem. Krishna never gets offended. And Shishupal, I mean, you know, what offense we can make. Now Shishupal, now he knows how to make offense. He's been practicing his whole life. You know, since he was 3 years old, can talk, he was offending Krishna. Like that. You know, so that's why seeing that, that's why then his mother, Shishupal's mother, asked Krishna, I think she's a related, she's an aunt or something, so that you tolerate 100 offenses from him before you take any action. And I think that means at one sitting, not accumulative. Otherwise, you know, within, you know, half a day, we'd be up to 100 already, but, you know, at one interaction. So then, therefore, he sits there for 100. Like that. And only because it's not about him. What can you do? You tell God whatever, this, that, and offend. It still doesn't change his position. For us, someone's offensive, this, that, it may change our position. But with God, it doesn't matter what you do. You can't change his position. He is God. So he's not upset.
You can see this rhetoric in public opinion forums, like in the deep, especially people being offensive to God, and they take it so personal. You know, when you do this and this, and there's just so much conflict amongst people because
Yeah.
it's offensive to God. But sometimes I can see that we actually getting so much more offended personally because someone has us and because of our religion, rather than, you know, so the whole idea of respect towards the Lord and doing things, I think sometimes with us, and we think we are disrespected because we identify so much with whatever religion.
Yeah, yeah. But it's not believing it. That's the thing. It's when when you're identifying with the external. That's where the problem comes in. So, first of all, unless Shastra, you know, the Acharyas are making the point. If they haven't made the point, then it's not a point to worry about. And then, so if we're seeing a detail that we think, what principle does it go back to, that is defined in that way. Because you have to know is that there's I mean, if you're being technical, then vikarma, that's sinful, because that's, you know, it's against karma. Akarma means you're not doing anything, like that. Karma means you're doing your duties, like that. Okarma means you're doing your duties to please Krishna. That's bhakti. So you have 4 different ways you can do. So he's not doing something, it's offensive. It's just not right. You're not doing anything wrong, you're just not doing what's right. Does that make sense? You know, so one has to see what's going on there, because we, you know, like to get upset, like to get offended because of our that need for justice, you know, and then we feel something's going on, because then the justice, the truth, and all these things are happening. But the actual point is that for Krishna, we get reactions for our karma simply because we're dealing with his energy, right, in the wrong way. Because he, being everything, his energy manifests the forms that you can interact with him as everything. Right? You know, so you have, it means if you get down to the basic, you have, let's say, the ness of something, the hood of something. Like childness and childhood. So childness is the essential point. It's manifest through, you can appreciate it through childhood. That's why if you see someone's being childish and they're not in childhood, it doesn't match. Or you see someone's not childish and they're in childhood, then you think, wow, who's this? You know, a 5-year-old starts telling you all this philosophy, then you think, wow. You understand? So they go together. That's how it had. So the childness is Krishna. The childhood is his energies. So now if you deal properly with childhood to appreciate childness, that's the actual relation between them and between you and them. But now if you don't follow that, that's then where the problem comes, because if there's a problem with childness, it won't be so much of a problem. Then the energy will get upset. But if it's a matter of you're dealing badly with the childhood, then Krishna, the childness, will get upset. So that's then why you have to deal in the proper way. So, because it's not, we call it karma because we think it's just work, action and reaction. But in actuality, it's about worshiping and serving Krishna. Right? And so whatever form you're worshiping in, like that, even you don't know it's Krishna, you don't know anything like that, then you are seeing like that. Then you are seeing it just as something that is important to you. You know, just as something important. Then, let me say. You're seeing it as just important, you materialistically. You know, like that. You say you like children. But what you like about them is the childness and its expression through childhood. So it's Krishna's energies. So you're actually worshiping Krishna if you deal properly. But you don't know you're worshiping Krishna, so you get no credit. You only get credit for what you know. That's why bhakti performed without knowing is called agyata sukriti. But because it's coming from the devotee by their desire, you're getting the benefit because of the devotee's desire. Does that make sense? Yeah. So yeah. So that's why then for the karmis and jnanis, they don't get any spiritual benefit even though they're working with Krishna. Because they don't know it's Krishna. But there's nothing else other than Krishna, so there's nothing else to work with. So it's when you work with devotion to please Krishna as a person, that's called bhakti. That's the nature of the spiritual world. Well, in the material world, then you're trying to interact with all of God's creation without God. And so, since the creation is conscious, therefore we're giving a place in the corner of the universe where his energy is unconscious. So the floor doesn't care if you deal with it for serving Krishna or not, but in the spiritual world it does. Right? The floor is a devotee, and if you don't use the floor for Krishna, then they get upset. Does that make sense? Does that make any sense? Yeah. So in other words, it's just a matter of the culture, because why one should do that, can that be explained? Is anybody explaining it? Because if you want the culture to go on, it's a matter of training. So that training has to be there, then there must be knowledge of what's happening, why it's happening, the value of it. In other words, people who practice that and value it, then they're training why it should be followed. Does that make sense? So it's not a matter of why aren't they doing it, because then it's just a rule. But if understanding that the benefit gained from doing that, and so by not doing it, you lose out on that benefit. It's a different approach. And that approach, then it becomes inspiring and interesting on why one should do that. So if that explanation is there, but otherwise, if you ask, it's just something that you do. It's our tradition, and our parents and their parents and parents before, they've all done it, so that's why we do it. But why, they won't know. It's good, it's proper, it's chaste, but how is it? That can't be explained. Therefore, it gets lost. Well, before it could be explained, because the psychology that's there, how it works, the interaction, that can be explained. Does that make sense? So that's the difference. You have to understand that. And you have to understand, therefore, then what you're dealing with. And then that point being made, then you'll see, the girls would be inspired to dress in that way. But has it been explained? Does that make sense? Yeah, because if we're being practical by just wearing, the local dress and everything like that, the girls are being practical and also wearing the local dress. So why is it they should dress according to tradition, and the men not. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like now you're not at a job. And there's a good chance you can't go to your job dressed the way you are. You'll have to go home and change before you go to work. So unless you, independent, run your own business, then you can dress however you like, and so it's cool. You understand? But for most people, they have a job. They can't go in sweatpants and a hoodie like that. Maybe on casual Friday, but the rest of the days you can't. So therefore, why is it, so the women just follow the men. So the men don't follow the tradition, so the women follow that, and they don't follow the tradition. So we can't complain, because they're just doing, the women are simply doing what the men are doing. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we say the women should follow the men. They are. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's the thing. It's a matter of the culture. It's a matter of the knowledge. It's a matter of the education. Then these things have meaning. But otherwise, it's just like if I say, okay, what are the duties of women? All the men will raise their hands. But if I say, what are the duties of men? Then, the women, to be submissive, follow the husband. Let's see, being submissive, follow the husband, do what the husband says. Yeah, that's about it. Like that. But if you ask, okay, what are the duties of men? Then there'll be a blank. Okay, well, provide for the family. Okay, and so? But the woman can go out and get a job and do that also. So what do we need men for? Right? There's a whole movement like this started in the 60s because, men thought that they were entitled to, women's attention. And so women got tired of it, from the 50s. And so therefore then they just went on their own. And that's created by the men. It wasn't created by the women. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, we have to see is that Krishna set up the creation a particular way, and it has its principles on which it functions, and you understand them, you get the result. You don't, you won't. It's lost. Like that. So one has to see the complete picture, and there's more to it than that. So it's a whole package. It's not just individual little things. It's a matter of, there's a package there, and we know our duties, we perform our duties, someone else does their duties, they perform their duties. Like that. And we're not worried about them doing their duties unless we're responsible. Family members, yes. Everybody else, we're not in control of that. That's how it works. If we want to educate people, yes, we can. But just to make the comment and expect, then how is that going to work? Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Something else? Yeah. Okay, so that's why then we learn from the Acharya. Because Prabhupada's there, he's explaining, he's dealing with it, he respects the women. Like he goes to India, and spends time when he's preaching in India, like in the 60s. Then when he goes back to America, he takes saris with him and gives them out to the girls. Dhotis, the boys are using bed sheets, literally. And it works, because they either wear white ones or saffron ones, and it doesn't matter. But for the girls, wearing, saffron bed sheets isn't that exciting. So he brings them saris. You know what I'm saying? So he cares. So therefore they wear saris, they wear them nicely, they do all those different things. Because Prabhupada's shown he cares, he takes care. That's why it happens. Nowadays, who's bringing the girls saris? Who cares? So then they reciprocate in the same platform. It's direct. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works. So if that's appreciated, that's understood, then we'll see how it functions. And if we don't, then it appears that there's problems in the religious religious. But point is the religion is not being understood. So the purpose of the religion is not being obtained. Does that make sense? Right? Where would covering the head come from? It would come from shyness, which is one of the inherent qualities of girl. Girl can afford to be shy if someone else is making the arrangements. But if she has to go out there and, kick butt with everybody else on the street to make a living, how can she afford to be shy? Right? And if you're in a society where people are taking advantage of you, if you show shyness, they'll immediately, it's like a dog. Dog stands there, you stand there, it just growls. You run, it chases you. So you just stand there. If need be, make a face back. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works. So they don't manifest the shyness because who's there to show the shyness to? Who cares? And who's not going to take advantage if they are shy? Because as I said, it's a package. They'll manifest if you manifest the other. You care, they can be shy. You don't care, they don't care. Does that make sense? So it's direct. If you study the women, you can tell how the men are behaving. If you study the men, you can see how the women are behaving. They're connected. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Good? Yeah, okay. And here. Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi.